John Thorchinski. I'm the digital outreach strategist here at the University of Regina. I've been involved with our Donor Relations Giving Tuesday campaign for 2 years now. And what I'm going to do in this presentation is give you a little bit of a rundown on what we did in year 1 versus year 2. If you gain absolutely nothing else from this presentation, the one takeaway should be that audience information is absolutely crucial for the success of your campaigns. I like to say that we did our most learning in year 1 rather than the most mistakes in year 1. And everything that we learned from year 1 fed into year 2 and gave us a better footing for what it's going to be year 3, year 4, year 5. So with that, next slide, please. I'm going to start off by giving you a little bit of an idea of the University of Regina and also the size of our communications shops. Sometimes when I've been listening to presentations, I drool at the resources people are able to use for some of their campaigns. University of Regina, for our Giving Tuesday campaigns, we used fewer than $300 for each campaign, first year, second year, and existing resources. The Giving Tuesday team was one communications person, myself, and it was in both years projects that were done on the sides of our desks. The 2 donor officers I worked with, again, this was a project that was off the sides of their desk, and we had probably upwards of 6 to 10 volunteers on the day of for Giving Tuesday, just to give you some context as to just the resources we were pulling into this. In terms of the university in general, we're a mid-sized prairie university. We're still learning more about what motivates students and faculty and our alumni to give to the university. We've certainly had campaigns on our campus for things like 5 Days for the Homeless, United Way, and we have participation for that, but we haven't necessarily, at least in terms of the student body, tried to connect with them about donating. Same with our alumni internally. Next slide, please. So that leads to the main reason why we continue doing Giving Tuesday, because we have a challenge with our alumni base. Fewer than 1% of donations to the university are from alumni. So with our second year, we focused heavily on current students. We have them for 4 years. Once they graduate and become alumni, they enter that time of their lives where they're making a little bit more money, may have a little bit more to give, and we saw the need to make those connections with them now so that they learn a little bit more about the value of a scholarship, what donations do in terms of influencing their experience here at the university, everything from infrastructure, equipment, making it possible for some students to attend. Unless a student has received a scholarship personally, donor relations and donating to the university tends to be a bit off their radar. So again, when they graduate, we want them to have at least a little bit of a relationship with us. Next slide, please. So year 1, again, this is where we did the most learning. How we got involved with Giving Tuesday the first year was our City Council, the City of Regina, proclaimed December 2nd, 2014, Giving Tuesday, which meant that there was media attention for that particular story, and we had nonprofit groups in our community jumping on board with Giving Tuesday. So Donor Relations said, we need to be on that list or on the radar of people who are thinking about giving. We need our name out there. So they came to the communication shop and connected with me. We had maybe 2.5 weeks from the time that we were approached to Giving Tuesday. And as many of you know, Giving Tuesday's a little bit tricky because it falls right at the beginning of finals for students. So if one of the audiences you're trying to connect with is your student body, you need to have far more lead time with those messaging because they're not paying attention once finals happens. So if you're thinking about Giving Tuesday and one of the audiences you're trying to connect with is students, start your planning now. So what we did in that first year is because it was about awareness raising, our community was still learning about what Giving Tuesday was. We focused on both internal and external audiences. The president was wonderful. She agreed to, for every share or retweet of the Giving Tuesday message, she would donate $1. Up to 14,000, 14,000 being the approximate number of students that we had enrolled in our fall semester. And any donations that we received, they went to area of greatest need unless a donor had decided a different place for that donation to go to. So that was generally the concept of the campaign, and we used pretty much any available communications tool that we had. So the usual suspects: email, homepage. We engaged our media relations team to connect with local media to talk about Giving Tuesday and what donations to the university does. You name it, we used that tactic. Next slide, please. So some of the challenges we had is some of the communications materials that we had going out, it was everything short of the kitchen sink. There were messages in there about what Giving Tuesday was, generic messages about giving to assist students. But again, for social media, this tended to be a little bit too text-heavy for us. Just as a side note, if you are thinking about doing any sort of campaign work for Giving Tuesday, do visit that Giving Tuesday national website. They have tons of materials there to help you, everything from posters to videos, logos. If you need something in a different resolution or a different size and you don't do graphic design, there are people who will help you. I'm certainly not a graphic designer. You'll see some of the Giving Tuesday imagery on this particular slide with some of the U of R photography. This is bare bones, basic work that was done here. I use a site called PicMonkey. PicMonkey, if you've never done anything remotely close to graphic design or anything with altering a photo, that will help you merge photos together and do what you need to do. Next slide, please. So this is an example of what we use. So this is that Giving Tuesday message that would have been retweeted or shared via Facebook or Twitter. And this is our present. Again, the point, at least for that first year, was awareness raising. Next slide. So this is important. You'll see on that first box screens the message was pushed to. If you're a manager or supervisor getting a analytics report from one of your communications officers, normally what you're going to see in that box is impressions. And I stopped using the word impressions because every time I gave a report to a director or a manager, they got really excited because they would look at that total of 88,675 or whatever the number is and think, wow, our message got to 88,000 people. That's not what that number means. That number means your message was pushed to a screen somewhere. And for those of you who use Facebook and Twitter, you know that you ignore a lot of things that show up on your Facebook page and on that Twitter feed that you have. What that number is useful for telling you is if the keywords that you're using in your Facebook or Twitter message are resonating with your audience. So, for example, I have approximately 300 Facebook friends. If each one of them posted a status update, it's not going to send that message into my feed because I would just ignore it. It's way too much. What Facebook does is it monitors my preferences, my history, and knows the things I like, so it tries to only send me things I like. So let's say I only click on posts about sharks. It's going to send me every post my friend sends me about sharks. But if I'm not responding to all the posts about giraffes, it's going to stop sending me anything giraffe related. So if that number of impressions or screens the message was pushed to is fairly low, chances are the content you're creating is not anything that your audience wants to have on their screen. If it's fairly high, it means you're doing okay. So that second level of engagement, likes and favorites, this is still fairly passive, but it is still more, you at least know that they read it or engaged with it in some level, even if it's a bit on the surface. So for us, for Giving Tuesday, our Twitter messages sort of fell flat. Facebook, we did a little bit better. But again, this is still a very superficial level of engagement. Part of my job is analyzing our content on Facebook and Twitter. So I can tell you that one of the most popular pieces of content we have tends to be sunsets and sunrises over campus. It doesn't take a lot of brain work to click the like or favorite. It's pretty picture, yes, I like that, click. So when you get a like or a favorite for your Giving Tuesday message, it doesn't necessarily mean a high level engagement. It's you have them a little bit more. You know they at least saw it. Shares and retweets, even better. It means that that person saw your message and said, yep, I want to share this with my network of people. So that's an even deeper level of engagement. And we did a little bit better with both Twitter and Facebook, but again, I think that's probably related to our university president agreeing to give $1 for each share or retweet. So that I was at least somewhat pleased with that. That was at least a little bit higher. The metric that you really want to focus on, the metric that you really want, is someone clicking on the link. Clicking on the link means they went to your online giving site because they wanted to know more. They wanted a deeper level of engagement with you. And if you get really lucky, they clicked on that link because they wanted to give. So if you look at our Facebook numbers versus the Twitter numbers, while we got higher levels of likes and favorites and shares on Facebook, we got a little bit more of people actually clicking on the link on Twitter. So I don't know why there's that difference, but again, just be cognizant of sort of the different levels of engagement, and with your campaigns, make that acknowledgement of what are you shooting for. Is it awareness that's really important for you, or is it clicking on those links and donating dollars? So have that in mind before you start. Next slide, please. So we didn't focus on money the first year, and it's reflected in the result of money we raised. The number of donations that we got were quite low. We had 0 donations from students. They were more than happy to retweet and share the message, but they didn't give. And so that was something that we decided to correct for year 2. Next slide, please. So next year, focused on giving. Awareness is great. Money is better. So we focused on getting a little bit more money. Even if it was small amounts, it was still a greater level of engagement. So think about just pulling them through that chain of liking or favoriting, sharing, retweeting, clicking on the link, actually giving. Even if it's a small amount, it just pushes them a little bit further down that funnel. We also had more time. Rather than 2 or 3 weeks before Giving Tuesday, we gave ourselves from, I think, mid-fall, right about now, up until December. And we also did far more consultation. In addition to the president, we also communicated far more with deans and directors. So before we sent messages out, we made sure that the president and our director communicated with the leadership team, so the leadership team were able to communicate back down to the faculties and departments. Because if we were going to focus a little bit more on giving, we have discovered that clearly faculty and staff have a little bit more in terms of finances to give. So we needed to make sure that that was an important group to connect with. Also in that second year, we didn't worry so much about external audience. We focused primarily on our internal audience. And we were working with far more audience information. In addition to what we were getting from Facebook and Twitter, we talked to a lot of people about how their impressions of how our first year went. My position changed a little bit. I started doing far more content analysis, so we were able to pull out more data from that. And then I went looking for secondary sources. So our Office of Resource Planning has internal statistics. There's also statistics available for you nationally. So looking at things like the Canadian University Survey Consortium can be helpful. I was very lucky. The province of Saskatchewan had the Saskatchewan Post-Secondary Graduate Study that had recently come out, so I had some data to work with there. And all of that fed into year 2. Next slide, please. So the more you know about communication preferences, challenges, needs, attitudes, opinions, motivations of your audience, the more you're going to have insight into what motivates them to give. Sometimes I think there's sometimes a pull to use every available tactic, throw the spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. It's far better to narrow it down to what does your audience actually want. So in terms of students, it was clear that Facebook and Twitter, sometimes email, face-to-face is exactly what you're looking for. Next slide, please. So from that audience information, from the first campaign we had, from the studies that we were looking at, from talking to whoever we could get our hands on, some of the information that we gathered is not surprising. Students have very little time, they have very little money, but they are highly social. So they are socially conscious, at least from the content I see them clicking on for Facebook and Twitter. Anything that has a social conscious bent, where the university is helping somebody, where there are peers helping somebody, they're very much engaging with that, and they support their friends. So any sort of campaign that we saw on campus where it was undergraduates doing something for the community, their friends were clearly also supporting them on that. So if there's a way to bring students into your campaigns, that could be quite helpful for you. Next slide, please. Faculty and staff are still a little bit of a black hole for us. We did other studies through our department, and we were able to find things out. It's like faculty were more inclined to give to graduate students than undergraduate students. So for year 2, rather than just having donations go to area of greatest need, we created 2 bursaries. We had an undergraduate Giving Tuesday bursary, and we had a graduate Giving Tuesday bursary. So if your preference was to make sure your donation went to a graduate student, you had that option just by clicking a box on the online giving site that your donation would go to a graduate student. At least from information I was getting from donor officers, staff were more inclined to give to an internal campaign than faculty. Not 100% sure why that is, but at least on our campus we had far more uptake from staff than we had from faculty, so we're still trying to figure out the needs and challenges of our faculty in terms of internal giving. And pretty much across the board, a few knew that they could use their professional development accounts to give. So if you know of ways to make it even easier for your internal community to give to you, make sure that those are also known to your target audience. Next slide, please. So with all that information that we gathered through year 1, we fed that right into our key messages. So we made sure that everyone knew about the matching donation from the president. We made sure that students in our communications through Facebook, Twitter, what have you, that students knew that even if they only had $1 or $2 to give, collectively those dollars do a lot. For faculty, again, promoting the graduate bursary, and also that there's different options for them to give, one of them being that they could use their professional development accounts. Next slide, please. So changes with year 2, buy-in for more levels of senior leadership. We consulted with the Students' Union and Resident Services. Students' Union was fantastic for us. Chances are your student union has already conducted fundraising campaigns of some sort with undergraduate students. So they were able to, at least our students union was able to give me plenty of insights about what's worked for them, what doesn't work for them, and also just give us general support. They were incredibly helpful for us through year 2 and were active participants in helping reach out, also volunteering for us on that day. Resident Services, they were wonderful to us. They have email lists to students and residents, so they let us send some messages out through that email chain. So when you're looking at different avenues to communicate, it's good to kind of look at all the tools available on your campus. We also, because we had more time, of course, greater visual presence, we also set up a table in near the food court, so high traffic area for students, and that gave donor officers an opportunity to have face-to-face conversations with students about what their donations go to, how donations affect their day-to-day lives here on our campus. And we did the Unselfie campaign. Many of you might be familiar with a selfie. A selfie is a photo that you take of yourself, goes up to Facebook, goes to Twitter. An unselfie, so for our second year, if you donated even if it was $1 or $2, you had the option of having your photo taken with a message about giving uploaded to the U of R's Facebook or Twitter account. This was to tie in with undergraduate students being more likely to support a campaign if they saw their friends involved with that campaign, and also with their tendency to be more likely to share and like. So this was part of that awareness raising for that second year campaign. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, we don't have a ton of funds for our campaigns. So if you're in a small shop, you don't have a lot of money, your Giving Tuesday efforts don't need to cost a lot. We used existing resources, which by existing resources I mean people hours. That was the bulk of the existing resources we used, and a couple of dry erase boards, markers, and buttons, which for the most part we can use again year after year after year. So if you can lock down about $250, you're going to be okay. Next slide, please. These were some of the images that we used for year 2. Again, nothing high-end. These were existing photos in the archive of our students. Messages that were tacked onto them were either about the key messages that I mentioned before, and also referencing the difference between the graduate bursary, the undergraduate bursary, and all the things that giving actually does to help our students. Next slide. This is an example of the Unselfie campaign, and in hindsight, we're looking at that hashtag, and we're probably going to change it because it looks too much like You Run Selfie rather than U of R or You Are Unselfie. Just a quick note about hashtags for those who are new to social media. Make sure that you do a search on your hashtag before you use it. When Twitter first became a thing, I remember being at a conference and the organizers wanting to use a hashtag for their conference and suggested that, we'll just announce something from the podium. Does this look okay to you? We ran it through a quick Twitter search. It was a very, very inappropriate conversation happening on that Twitter channel. So whatever hashtag you're using for Giving Tuesday or any campaign that you're starting, it takes a minute, but it can save you a lot of grief. Go check your hashtags. So in terms of You Are Unselfie, this is a photo of our president with a message about giving. This was her reason for giving because I remember what it was like. Next slide, please. This is Angel from the Art Store. This is U of R Security. Next slide. And these are students who came to our table in the Radel Center here at the University of Regina. Just a quick note about the unselfies. From the analytics that we gathered at the end, the unselfies featuring students got far more likes, favorites, and shares, but the unselfies with our faculty and staff had more clicks on the link. So just kind of be aware of that balance that can happen for you. Next slide, please. This is a member of the University of Regina Student Union Executive. Rather than just having our university spokesperson talk about Giving Tuesday, we connected with our Students Union and had executives from the Student Union serve as our spokespeople. Again, trying to connect with students in that way of peers talking to other peers about reasons for giving. Next slide. So the results of year 2 were better. We're still making baby steps to what I would call a massive campaign success. We're not quite there yet. We're still learning. We had more students donate, which was good. One of the things I'd like to measure moving forward is those. I think what was most valuable is the conversations that they ended up having with the donor officers. I think that was helpful for us, and I think the more conversations that happen with donor relations and the students is going to be helpful for us moving forward. We certainly raised more money, but if you look at the numbers there, the undergraduate bursary pulled far ahead from the graduate bursary, so we're still working through why our faculty aren't necessarily giving it at the same rate as the other groups, even when they've defined that graduates were a target for them. So still a little bit more learning to go. Next slide, please. So looking ahead, we will be doing Giving Tuesday for year 3. One of the insights that we gained from the last Giving Tuesday initiative was that in addition to slowly cultivating the student body into learning a little bit more about donor relations and gathering donations to help our students, some of the Giving Tuesday messages, even though we left it as an internal campaign, still reached external donors, and it served as a reminder to them to give. So they would have been approached or received something in the mail about giving to a particular campaign. They may have thought, okay, I'll donate later, left it. The Giving Tuesday messages served as a prompt reminding them to give to that particular campaign. So in some fashion, the Giving Tuesday campaign raised a little bit of money for Giving Tuesday bursaries, but it also assisted with some other campaigns. And again, as I mentioned at the very beginning of the presentation, looking ahead, it's all about gathering more audience information, figuring out what those communication preferences are, figuring out those motivations. So I think the more of those that we get, the better this is going to be for us. And with that, I'm going to turn things over to Joyce.
Thank you, Shannon. My name is Joyce Yu, and I am the Digital Communication Strategist at the University of Alberta, and I run all the social media accounts for the U of A alumni channels. Next slide, please. For my portion of the talk today, I thought I would start off with a bit of background on our goals, the research that we did to set those goals, and how that ultimately led to the inception of our Valentine's Day campaign. Our alumni brand promise centers on lifelong connections. This Alberta Love campaign was our opportunity to generate conversation, nostalgia, and community engagement about those lifelong connections. This ultimately helps to support our overall goal, which is to increase the university profile, brand, and marketing for advancement purposes. Next slide, please. At present, we have 275,000 living alumni. We split up our alumni into different life cycles to better understand where they are projected to be in their lifestyle, what might interest them in terms of events, and the type of benefits that might be useful for them. 30% of alumni graduated in the last 10 years. 29% are at a life stage focused on building their career and their family. 25% are between 25 to 40 years from graduation, and 16% are seniors and retired. Next slide, please. While fundraising is a goal for the university, our objective is to show our alumni that we want to stay connected with them because we're interested in their lives and proud of them as individuals. One of the challenges for our Alumni Association is having the reputation of being only interested in our graduates for solicitation purposes. I'm showing these tweets because it's an honest and real representation of how some alumni feel and how they very clearly express it to us. Our alumni who graduated in the last 10 years make up our largest group in the life cycles with 30%. Yet our research has shown that they are currently the least engaged. And based on where most of them are in their lives, it makes sense. They just finished their degrees, are paying off student loans, trying to start their career. It's not surprising that they're not receptive to any type of ask. And if we push too hard before we foster a positive relationship with them, then we've lost them for good. What this means is that alumni, and this isn't exclusive to our younger grads, must be purposefully motivated to become engaged alumni, and this relationship is important to nurture. Based on engagement surveys and focus groups that were conducted, alumni are the most likely people to endorse, support, and invest in the university, and that likelihood increases the more engaged they become. Next slide, please. This is a small sample of posts from this year that include shout-outs, fun facts, to small care packages, as I call them, that I send to alumni. One of the best parts of being on social is the conversations we get to have with our grads. Here are a few examples of the one-on-ones, and not just the large-scale posts. Cora Sandra on Facebook was a grad who won an alumni name that beer contest that we ran for Alumni Weekend. She lives in Amsterdam, and her gift package came as a complete surprise to her. We've actually kept in touch and have future coffee plans for when she's back in Canada. We have another grad who was competing in a best barbecue in the world cooking competition in Florida. We sent him an apron, a t-shirt, and other alumni swag items. He now wears this t-shirt at all of his barbecue competitions. Another grad tweeted a photo of his U of A keychain that finally broke down after 10 years in 4 universities, so we sent him a new one. And when one of our brand new grads, Megan Engel, won her Alumni Award, she expressed on Twitter that she was feeling homesick during the award ceremony because she had already started her master's in Oxford. So I sent her a link to her family's photo booth photos because they were at the ceremony on her behalf. So that's just an example of how we connect with grads on social. Of course, it's not possible to have one-on-ones with everybody, so we also try and create and look for content that would be of value for everyone. My general rule for social is that we want to give them more than we're asking. On the next slide, please. Social media research has shown that there should be an 80-20 ratio between interesting content, stories, shareables, versus direct marketing and calls to action. For our purposes, 80% is information, storytelling, community management, like I've just shown you, and giveaways where we don't ask for much in return. It can also be things like questions that alumni might have for us, comments about stories or posts, or even responses to negative feedback about unwanted solicitations or emails and general conversation. 20% encompasses sales and promotions. For our purposes, that also includes fundraising. On the next slide, you'll see this is an engagement pathway that was built by my director of marketing. Before we can make any type of solicitation to our grads and students, we need to foster a relationship of trust with them where we're giving back more than we are asking. We want to see our alumni through this pathway of awareness of what we represent, to knowledge, to understanding of what we're providing. This will help foster affinity to the brand, engagement, and then that will lead to action. A large portion of the feedback I receive from our grads concerning solicitations are one of frustration and distrust. My goal is to move the dial on that tone of conversation and use our social media platforms to highlight our alumni, to cultivate a culture of pride and loyalty, and to motivate the first-time participation and engagement with projects, campaigns, and giveaways. Next slide, please. I created the U Alberta Love campaign for Valentine's Day with our alumni brand in mind of building community and personal connections, and also celebrating our grads that doesn't come with any other type of ask. Our focus for Valentine's Day was to celebrate the special relationships developed during our time at the U of A. U Alberta Love is our chance to acknowledge and celebrate these relationships, whether it's with a friend, partner, teacher, mentor, or even a work spouse. For undergraduate students in particular, those 4 or more years are a transformative time. They discover newfound independence, form new relationships, and develop lifelong memories of their time at the university. It was important to us not to focus only on romantic love, but also the inspiring profs or the friends we made in class who became a lifeline. This type of campaign was simple to execute. The first year I created this campaign, I was only with Advancement for 3 weeks. I mention this not to boast about it, but to show that this is the type of engagement that is easy to take on and doesn't require complex organization. It's simple to create a strategy and distribution plan when you have a temporal link and a reason for people to engage. Next slide, please. Last year, Valentine's Day fell on a Saturday, so we kicked off the campaign on Monday on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram, and took advantage of the full week. This campaign had 2 components to it. One component was the storytelling aspect, where we asked our followers to share their U Alberta Love story. The other component is that we distributed buttons that say, I met my husband, I met my wife, my best friend at information booths all around campus. We also distributed buttons at the basketball game that was held on February 14th and at a production of Love's Labor Lost that was being held at a theater on campus. Participants who shared their friend, romance, bromance, teacher, coworker story also received buttons in the mail from the Alumni Relations Office. The success of this campaign required coordination and support from other communication coordinators across campus. While the campaign was run through the Office of Advancement, different faculties and colleges played a role in the success and reach of the campaign also. Throughout the week, we requested other university channels to share and retweet the call for Valentine Stories and for information on where to find buttons, and we received a lot of support, and the collaborative nature of this campaign was also a good opportunity for us to build goodwill across the university administration in order to support our future collaboration. On the next slide, please. Our primary audience was current students. Our goal for this group is to raise awareness of the Alumni Association. For the grads of the last decade, we want to earn their trust in the Alumni Association. And then for grads in a family and career growth group, we want to strengthen that nostalgic bond for the university. Based on analytics measured by Hootsuite and our own Facebook analytics, our most actively engaged alumni on social media are aged 25 to 34 and 35 to 44. This means that our primary audience and also our largest two life cycles are also the most actively engaged on our social media pages. Next slide, please. Throughout the week, we encouraged alumni to share stories about their time on campus and who their U Alberta Love is. Here's an example of a story we received about a work friendship that was fostered on campus. And on the next few slides, I'll share a few more of the stories that we received. So on the next slide, this story is, my U Alberta Love are my Delta Gamma sisters. Without them, my university experience would be sorely lacking, and I wouldn't see nearly as many friendly, smiling faces across campus. We wanted this campaign to be lighthearted, so on this next slide is a silly one that most of us can relate with, our beloved morning coffee. As everyone was posting, myself and the social media coordinator for the main U Alberta account replied to everyone's photos and stories and retweeted and reposted them. This is our opportunity to show our alumni that we want to stay connected with them and that we're interested in their lives. On the next slide, this grad writes, my other U Alberta Love, I miss it very much. It's where I underwent an intellectual awakening, and it's where I met and grew up with my closest friends. On the next slide, we'll meet a couple who met in 1988. She offered him a ride to his hometown during Christmas break so he wouldn't have to take the bus. This year is their 25th wedding anniversary. On the next slide, we'll meet Jim and Ann. We concluded the week with Jim and Ann's 50-year love story. Their story was originally featured in our alumni magazine, New Trail, when Jim reached out about wanting to spend their 50th anniversary on the spot where they met. They originally met at a bus stop, but the landscape of campus has changed since then, and a few people in our office helped them figure out that it is now the Students' Union building. Jim and Ann drove through a blizzard to be on campus and celebrate the moment of their first meeting. I'd like to share aligned directly with our objective of increasing alumni engagement across life cycles. The strategic objective for this campaign was to deliver on the Alumni Association's brand promise, which I've mentioned before is providing alumni with a sense of community and belonging. That campaign also helped maintain brand awareness through our U of A alumni swag and social media accounts. We were happy with the outcomes of the campaign. And normally when we look at impressions and reach, like Shannon was saying, they're usually vanity metrics if they don't help you make a decision. But in this circumstance, we just wanted to know that there's more opportunity for eyeballs to see the campaign, and that would potentially translate to participation. Next slide, please. A recent alumni engagement survey showed that alumni who feel part of the university community, who feel the university is proud of them, and who use social media are more likely to donate and recommend their alma mater. We did not expect any philanthropic gifts to the university as a result of this nostalgia campaign, but we wanted to establish that just as alumni form relationships on campus that extend beyond their university years, we want their relationship with us to continue and grow after their education ends. Most of the posts we received throughout the week were from grads and students who don't normally engage with us on social media. Since the campaign, however, about half continue to follow our channels and realign with themselves with our brand, while a few have become gift prospects and annual donors. In conclusion, the takeaway that I have of using social media as the first pathway to engagement is that most of our alumni represent the greatest proportion of our social media users. That's 2/3 of our audience. The question that I'll ask myself is, are we giving them what they want and are asking for, or are we giving them what we want them to hear or have? And if it's the latter, then it's not the right direction. Most of our alumni are digital natives, and this will only increase. And we as administrators need to understand that audience, understand that space, and honor it. And with that, I'll turn it back to Tara. Thank you very much.
Great. So I'd like to thank Shannon and Joyce for those engaging and interesting presentations. I do apologize about that video not playing. And again, thank you for the time that you've put in. With our remaining time before the top of the hour, what I would like to do is open up the floor to questions. So please feel free, unmute your lines if it's muted, and we can take some questions from the audience. Okay, so if we don't have any questions, I'm also just going to double check. Erica, do we have anything lined up in the online queue for questions?
No, there's nothing in the chat with questions at this time.
Okay, perfect. So just another request out there. If anybody has any questions for either Shannon or Joyce, please feel free to ask them now. I will say as well that this conference is being recorded and will be made available to you all following the session. So if we don't have any questions, we can adjourn early. Is there any questions for either of our presenters? No, I guess that must mean that you've covered so much that everybody is just processing all of the information now. So again, on behalf of CCAE, I would like to thank Industrial Alliance for making these conferences free and available to our members, and definitely to Shannon and Joyce for sharing some of your wisdom, for sharing some of your mistakes with us, for sharing some of your key findings and your goals. And we wish you all the best of success. And we will talk again soon, everybody, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you, Sarah.